On this week's episode of 90 Degrees, we talk sharing information and building a gambling network, what it's really like to live in Las Vegas, and that time my guest had to change his ATM pin because someone guessed it on the spot. That and more on today's show of 90 Degrees. Welcome to the 90 Degrees podcast. I'm your host, G-Stack George, and I'm excited because I got somebody well recognizable in the sports betting community. Bill Krackomberger, professional sports bettor, advantage gambler, media personality. Bill, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on, George. It was nice. I followed you. I seen a show about a week or two ago with you on it, and I said, "Oh, this guy's got an interesting story." I love stories, because I'm a story guy. You know what I mean? I came from a background where I can't believe I got out alive. It's either you're in jail or you're broke from gambling. I mean, I shouldn't say in jail. That's a little too harsh, but I was around a lot of people back then in back east, so it
Yeah,
was cool.
we have a similar upbringing from that standpoint. My road traveled was long and arduous, but I'm happy because it's led to where I am. I was actually going to ask you because I was forthright about my struggles starting out, and a lot of people they don't tell you that part of it. Like, what was your
I always do. My whole life is you Google my name. I gave a great interview to the Chicago newspaper. Sometimes on the first page of Google. I mean, I talk about struggles and stuff. You have to. And no one just comes out of the womb a winner. I mean, of course. I was a loser. Let's just say struggles. Let's use the real word. I was a loser before became a winner. Um, you know, where I grew up, we had these little football tickets. This is back in the '70s now. I'm a little bit older than you. And they were, you put them in for Sunday, and everyone loses. They're 3 for 3, paid like 10 for 1 or something. It was just no. Actually, it was 6 for 1. You had it 4 for 4 was 10 for 1, and the biggest thing in there is the FOR 4-1. So it's actually 9-1. So, but yeah, everyone played them, and I grew up with great parents. Oh my God, I had such great parents. I had a great old fashioned Italian mother from the Bronx. My father was Hungarian, Irish. We have Jewish in our background. Tough though, very stoic family on that side, and they were just gamblers. Everyone gambled, especially the Italian side. My father was, I don't know, for lack of a better word, my aunts would get mad at me, corrupted by the Italians, and there was gambling in our house every single weekend. I grew up on a boardwalk town. We're all from the Bronx. You have to understand, everyone's from the Bronx, but they came down to this boardwalk town, 45 minutes south of the city of New York, every weekend because we had games of chance. My aunt and uncle had a pizza stand. It's still there to this day. Kingsburg Boardwalk pizza place is still there 57 years later on that boardwalk, which my cousin now runs, third generation, old school boardwalk Italian pizza made by Italians. Imagine, it's unbelievable. But anyway, I grew up on that boardwalk, and that boardwalk, boy, you grew up real fast. 9 years old, I worked there, and at nighttime, and I talk about it now, but I guess back then that was illegal. The games on the boardwalk became games of chance. You have to understand, Atlantic City just opened 77, 78. It was the same years. So those games on the boardwalk became games of chance where the vendors would now gamble. They had a thing called Skillo, and the Skillo would turn into a cash Skillo game. There was wheels where you can have different sections of the wheel you bet on and stuff. And right from a young age, though, I have a really sharp cousin. He's still around. Very sharp. Went to Fordham. Kind of a genius, right? I mean, real estate guy, buys and sells properties now. He's a pretty wealthy guy now. He showed me from the very beginning some advantages, especially in card counting. He used to always have a deck of cards. I mean, he'd be counting a deck of cards off to the side. His mom and dad owned the pizza stand. And he showed me from the beginning some advantage gambling, though, especially poker-wise and like pot odds, applied pot odds. So that stuff was still good, but I was still a sucker. I still went to Monmouth Park. I was a kid because my father took me, because my Italian uncles took him and took me to the racetrack when I was 10, 11 years old. I was taking a bus there with my buddies, from Kingsburg to Long Branch, Long Branch to Eatontown to Oceanport, and blowing all the money I would make on the weekends. I was blowing it at the racetrack. I was a stone cold
Yeah,
sucker.
your New York Irish Italian upbringing sounds a lot like my Toronto Greek upbringing, and same thing. We were gambling on backgammon and dice and cards. We kind of grew up around it. I've seen some of the same back rooms that you probably have. How long did it take for you to like figure it out, get all the bad juju out of you, and figure out okay, there's people who win at this, and this is what you've got to do.
It's funny. I used to go to a Greek area in New York. It was Astoria, Queens. I used to go to Astoria all the time and play poker because there was. Uh, sorry, George. The Greeks
No,
were very
we love
aggressive
to
gamblers
gamble.
in New York. Anyway, I
No,
don't
it's
know.
here
Like
too.
they owned diners and had some of the greatest restaurants in the world. But at nighttime, a lot of those diners would become poker dens. And I used to play at this one place. It was above Petland discounts. I remember that. It was in Astoria, New York. Oh man, I can't think of that street. The main street in Astoria. But I'll tell you, my friends really knew the right game to go to because this game was wild. Strap yourself in. It was 5-10 limit. Um, Back then, you played seven card stud. Really, there was a couple board games, but seven card stud was really the primary game. There wasn't no limit hold'em wasn't a game back then. It was limit. I mean, they had it out in Vegas, but New York just didn't go for that. So it's funny. I played a lot of those games where I did well in poker, but yet I was a sucker in sports. There was always bookmakers in the games. You were a sucker in sports. But when I really found out how much of a sucker I was and how there's an advantage to sports betting was around 1993, 92, 93. And I got a call from a guy that I knew, a good guy. I used to put money in his commissary account every week. He was in jail, and I would put like $10 a week in his
He was in
commissary
college.
account.
He was
And
in
he said,
college.
"Listen,"
That's
he was in college, yeah. And good guy, good guy. He's been out and he's been clean of anything for 30, 25 years. So, but yeah, I'm still friends with him. Um, but literally, this guy, I used to put money in his account every week. I met him in a poker game in Edison, not Elizabeth, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, at a pool hall called West End Billiards. I used to play pool. I used to play pool. There was great big pool, the best pool tournaments in the world, the best players. I mean, literally, Steve Miserak, Ginky, all these guys, Johnny Archer, Earl Strickland, everyone came into this pool room. But this pool room had some of the best guys from New Jersey too. Joe Frady. There's so many names of all up and down the East Coast of New York. Some of the greatest pool players. So, but they had a poker game on the side, and I was always good in poker because of my upbringing through my cousin on that boardwalk. So, anyway, that's where I met this guy. This guy went to jail for something stupid, and while in jail, he said there's something going on down at the old Golden Nugget, which was called, I think it was called Bally's Grand at the time, before the Hilton. One of the two, it was Bally's Grand or Hilton. But he said there's something going on down there at this bank of blackjack machines down there. He goes, I don't know where it is, but I heard the rumor in here. It was in a jail in Jersey. I was like, wow. So I'll go. I went down there. I was working two jobs. By the way, George, you probably never met someone that worked more blue collar jobs than me. I grew up in a little boardwalk, 1 mile square town. I worked arcades, all different kind of boardwalk things, car washes when I was a kid. I was always hustling, trying to make money, even in the winter when it was snowing and raining. I always worked blue collar. I was working two jobs at the time. I was dating my wife at the time. We were just dating, and I remember I said I'm going to go down there after my second job. I had a second job 3 nights a week, trying to save like 50, $100 a week for something for the future. And I went down there with a little bit of a bankroll, like $600, and I still don't know what I'm looking for. This all leads to sports betting, by the way. So I go down, I see it's like 1 in the morning. The whole place is dead. It's like a Tuesday, and the whole place is dead. Yet there's one bank of machines that all 12 machines are full. I knew that was something was going on in that bank of machines. Well, sure enough, I waited them out, and it's like God opened up the end machine for me to sit down next to somebody, which I'm going to get into. I sit on the end machine, and I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm putting money in, and this tall 6'6" guy, 6'7" guy says to me, "Can you? We're putting coins in the machine instead of putting bills in. We don't want the hoppers to empty. Years ago, there was coin trays. The coins came in and out. It wasn't tickets in and out like it is now. It's called Tito's now, ticket in, ticket out. It was coins. So I listened to him. I said, "Okay, sir." He goes, "Can you buy some rolls?" They were $20 each. I bought 2 rolls of coins off him, put some in there, bought some more coins, building up the credits. And what you're going to do is get a hand pay at the end. But now I still don't know what's going on. Well, now I realize why. The machines were an old blackjack machine that had like a 5% edge on it by playing with a surrender feature. And I'm learning from this guy what to do. It was only, by the way, it was only like $1. I think it was $1 a hand. $1 a hand by this. I called out of work the next morning. I remember I literally not even, I think I tenfold my bankroll. Either I left with 6,000 or I won 6,000. I remember that. Then I remember I was playing with a player card. I remember them contacting me saying they're taking all my points away. I remember that because the game had an edge to it. They had to know something. Everyone was winning there. But that's not even the important thing. The important thing is the guy that was next to me. He was the head of the card count team at Resorts. He worked for Resorts International, the Resorts Casino, but he was on the other side. He was not gambler. He was not gambling. He was pointing out who the card counters were. Well, meanwhile, I had that technique to me, so that was where we bonded, talking about the card counting and stuff. And he said, Do you play sports?" I was like, "Nah, I play with a bookmaker up north." But one guy, he goes, "Well, we may be able to make some money because I live down here and I play with a guy in Philly. You play with a guy in New York. You can middle and scalp games." I don't know what that meant. I mean, I just know I was a sucker. But I did bet underdogs. I always liked to bet underdogs in baseball and stuff. But and he showed me the business. He showed me. He already, yeah. Frank he was already probably worth about $1 million because he had a very good job, very good family. He came from money, only child, money guy. I was the one that was poor. I grew up pretty poor. I didn't know. I always had money in my pocket. I always had food on the table, but we were very blue collar. We had no money for college or anything like that. So, um, but anyway, so he taught me about middling and scalping, and then there was some books that were just opening up. There was places called like Rich's Sports, and that was the name, Rich, RICH, Rich's Sports International. And then I can't remember the names. I know one of them was a place in Jamaica. They robbed me in the end. Dennis Ataya was his name. He's still around Pennsylvania. He had a place there called English Sports Betting, English ESB, English Sports Betting. He robbed everyone in the end, but they did pay for a while. But they were there. I used to play with Gary Bowman himself. Gary used to answer the phones in England. Gary Bowman, CanBet in Australia and Canterbury Downs. That's more like almost like I guess mid '90s, late '90s. But there was so many good books with. By the way, back then it was like the sports books in our country now that they're not doing it now, but they did it at the beginning. The bonuses were ridiculous. You would send $1,000, they would start your account at $2,000. Just do a 5-time rollover or even a 1-time rollover. But the books in this country too, the DraftKings, FanDuel's, and stuff, they were given sick, insane bonuses at the beginning. I'm talking never seen nothing like it. DraftKings had an unbelievable bonus. You're probably going to hear this for the first time. So
Is it the Arizona, Colorado, the $5,000 bonus?
before they were even open, before that, way before that, when they first opened in Jersey, they had a deal where you deposit up to 50K. If you deposit 50K, they'll give you 25,000 real money, real dollars. And guess what? If you refer someone over to them, they're going to give them up to 25 too. It was the sickest deal in the history of deals. Right in the beginning, they had casino hosts they hired from the casino business who brought over these deals for, hey, let's give these guys 50% deposit bonuses, and they're going to play with us as big gamblers. They're players. It worked out well for the guys that were the bonus guys, but I don't know how good it worked
Yeah,
out for DraftKings because they're out of that now.
they
They don't
learned
do that.
they learned the lesson. By the time we got legalized in
Yeah.
Ontario, we had none of that. They said, "No, we're not making that mistake again." We had
Then
some
for the
very thin
and
pieces.
even for the next year, they downgraded the bonus. So instead, if you deposited 50, they only gave you 12.5, but they give the person that referred you 12.5 too. And by the way, that's not a free bet, which is worth half of that. Minus juice, probably 48% of that. This was a real cash in your account dollars. That doesn't happen anymore. And I'll tell you something else too. DraftKings was very good to me. They allowed me I stayed in that account for a very, very long time, beat them for a lot of money. And up until the Banchero bet, which they did not like very much from me, I bet on Banchero. I had some really good odds at like 12 to 1, 10 to 1, and 9 to 1. And, and then besides that, after that, then they limited me. But still, they're very good. When I go to the counter, they're good to me now. I go to the counter, not in New Jersey, but if I go to one of the other locations, they're pretty good to me. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there. And I talk like crazy, as you could see. A lot of people say, I interview you, I ask you 3 questions in an hour. So, but anyway, that's how I started. Frank showed me the business. We were middling and scalping. That's how I built my bankroll up in the 90s. Middling and scalping, always keeping a little bit more on the bad side. Now, what I mean by that is if you go over on a basketball game, over 130 on a college basketball game, and the line closed 135, you're going under 135. I know I'd always put less on the more. Let's throw out more. I'd always put more on the over the 130, and that's how I made my money in the beginning. Now, if I look back at it now, I was scalping for the sports books. I was scalping for the person I was betting the under 135 for. I was giving them money. I would just better off betting the bad side, and that would have been it.
Hey, I want to talk to you about Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sports book and available to bettors in Ontario. Find out what professional bettors have known for the last 25 years. 25 years of competitive odds, your trusted sports book. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Must be 19 plus in Ontario. Please play responsibly. Not available in the US. Now back to the episode. Sure. You strike me as a guy who's like relationship guy, similar to me. Somebody opened my eyes and changed my perspective. I'm the kind of guy, if you put me in a room with like doctors or plumbers or 3 different types of rooms, I'll find common ground with everybody and get to know them and chat them up. When do you decide to go out to Vegas, Bill? Because now you're working, you got your hustle going on in Jersey and New York. Why the move to Vegas, and when did you do it?
I moved to Vegas about 20 years ago, about 19 years ago. But I came out to Vegas many more times. I was out to Vegas 3, 4 times, 5 times a year. Always March Madness, the Super Bowl, all those. I always came out here. But my first times was with my partner, who I met that time in Atlantic City. Well, by the way, we wound up going partners, him and I, in sports the next 10 years. Frank's his name. He's still around. He's still in Atlantic City, still an advantage gambler, smarter than ever, but the money's in. So the money's in now. He doesn't have to gamble anymore. He does for fun, more or less. See me, I'll do this forever. I don't care how much money I have. I'll be doing this till the day I die. But Frank, the money's in. But when did I learn? I learned to do this and decided to make a career of it probably around 98, full time. 97, 98, I started to make 99. That's when I probably started to do this full time. Moved out to Vegas around 2000, right before Cantor opened down at the M. So probably around, I don't know, maybe, no, actually it was a couple of years before that. So I've been here about 18, 19 years.
And the first time I discovered you, Bill, is in the Action documentary from 2019, 4-part documentary covering several different people in the field, and it was centered around the Rams and Patriots Super Bowl. How does that come about? Who reaches out to you and says, "Hey, we want to feature you in this doc"?
Well, I did some shows. I did some of the first sports betting shows of all time. And literally, I used to do a show every single Friday with Larry Grossman, who had a show here in town called You Can Bet on It. It was the first gambling show, one of a kind. I don't think a single other network really had a full-time gambling show. It was called You Can Bet on It. Every Friday, I used to do it. I did it with Lem Banker for the last few years, old-time legend in this town. And I came out here and did that show. So I kind of known from the show a little bit, people around town, and then I wound up doing the VSiN show with Gil Alexander every Thursday. I still do it. I'll be doing it tomorrow. Every Thursday, when I'm in town, I do it live in the studio. If not, I do it on Zoom or over the Zoom link. But I guess really they see me from there. Gil recommended me to a guy that he went to school with, college with, who was the showrunner, and we sat down at the MGM. I remember, and we went over. And I thought they were going to never use me after they sat down and interviewed me because, I said, listen, can I curse on this show or no? By the way, I'm not a curse. I don't curse. I never curse in front of females, never curse in front of kids. The only word I'm going to use here is bullshit. But I guess they must have thought, I just figured it was really like, these guys think I'm full of a lot of bullshit because I just told them, listen, I'm not your guy if you want to bricks of money, going to the sports book with 100,000, driving a fancy car. That's not me. That's not me. I'm not that guy. So I said, I'll let you into my world. You could follow me around, do some stuff, but I'm just not. I do more of an advantage gambling. What I do, me and my team, we win. We don't do this for fun or yell and scream. And there's no emotion when I bet. I've had six-figure decisions in days. I don't. There's no screaming and yelling. So I just figured that that's not what they were looking for. They actually came right back to me though. But I find out now why. I didn't know that there was going to be the polarizing character of Vegas Dave in this show. I didn't know that. I didn't know they were going to find Todd, which Todd was great for the show. He's the guy out there screaming and yelling in the book and watching every game. I do enjoy watching games now, especially now that I'm hosting a weekend Fox show so every week. So I do enjoy watching the games and stuff, especially my friends come in town. Or I spent a lot of time on the East Coast because let's just face it, people think out here it's a sports betting capital. Not the case. Other jurisdictions are the sports betting capital. I've been thrown out of 4 or 5 sports books here, not for doing anything illegal, just for using my brain. So there's only a couple I bet at out here, but I have more outs back east, the legalized outs back east on a legalized sports book. So
I actually want to ask you because the new rage in sports betting is whether you're a modeler and you build your own lines and attack that way, whether you're somebody who watches the screen and you chase steam. I gather, and from what I've read, and correct me if I'm wrong, you work with a team. You share information like a network. You also help people move and get action down. Does that accurately describe what you do?
well, I did my own stuff. Me and Frank did, or he showed me that his own model. He had power rankings, power charts. He showed me everything back in the '90s of what he did and how to make money. Also, watch the screen. There was some great indicators. The internet just came out, so there were some great indicators on the screen of where the lines were going. So there was some old sports books called the Rio. Jazz is still on there. There were some sports books that would move 20 seconds before anyone else. You had to just know where to look for your line. So we did all our own stuff, plus incorporated that. And then I actually met some of the sharpest guys in the world. And yeah, I've been part of many gambling syndicates over the years. And I say syndicates, people think syndicates, they think of mafia syndicate. That's not the case here. We're talking about gambling, a group, gambling team that pay taxes, quarterly taxes. I'll be doing that next week. And do it the right way. I mean, that's what we do. And like I said, like when Action wanted me on, I drove a Kia. I still drive. I drive a Kia. That's what I drive. I mean, I choose to the best value out there. I can go out and get any car I want, but I don't choose to
Yeah,
do that.
a
So
a car is a depreciating asset,
yeah,
like, more than anything. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
yep,
I sometimes I like my toys, so,
yeah.
I have that bad part of me, but I actually wanted to ask you, do you have an off season, or are you doing this, like, all the time? I get a little bit more low key during, the off season of football. I love betting football. We can get a lot of liquidity down, and then I take a little bit of a break after. Are
Yeah.
you always grinding and running around, or do you guys have,
I
like, a
enjoy
downtime?
I enjoy taking, and I don't mean taking off. I enjoy slowing down and working from anywhere. In March, um, you know, I'm going to say even the last couple rounds of March Madness, when it's like handicapping an NBA game, it's very hard to win. I'll have a couple plays, but nothing serious. I go to Florida for a few weeks then in March. I'll go back to the Jersey Shore for a lot of the summer. Here I enjoy being here though. I live in a nice high rise above the city. You've seen it in action. It's safe. It's comfortable here where I'm at. But I do enjoy my downtime. I go out to eat a lot, as you could tell. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I do enjoy going out to breakfast, and I enjoy going out to dinners. And anyone that comes in town, um, I, listen. I'm my father's child. I'm my father's son. I learned everything from my dad. My dad was always saying you be nice to everybody, and he was always even though my dad didn't have any money, he was the greatest guy in the world. He spent money on everybody, his family and friends, and he made everyone enjoy things. I enjoy doing that too. I enjoy taking people out to eat and going out to eat in different places. I have my regular joints, my regular spots, but that's something I enjoy doing. So I'm really life is a dream, man. It's almost a vacation and a dream. So as far as that though, but I do get a couple of places I go here and there.
Yeah, I I'm a relationship guy, and I like being hospitable and taking people out, and
Yeah.
I actually enjoy the presence of people. I can when I'm not thinking about betting, I could sit down and we could have a 3 hour meal, food, drinks, and I won't even look at my phone. I can get lost in the moment. I actually want to ask you: you're a very natural broadcaster. You have a natural charisma. Were you uncomfortable at any point, or I figure like if you grew up New York, Italian, Greek, you almost had to be a good broadcaster if you want to get a word in because everybody likes to talk in those circles.
I give my aunt Caroline and my uncle Jimmy Carasato. I give them the credits, and my cousin Anthony Carasato. I give them the credit for that. In that pizza stand, I learned relationships. I was just making dough at first, not doing anything, cutting, not even cutting pizza yet. Then I started cutting pizza, serving pizza, dealing with customers. I learned all that from them down at that boardwalk. That's where I really learned interaction. Before you know it, I was not working there anymore. I was working in higher paying jobs on the boardwalk, dealing with people, and it was really I mean, of course, everything comes from your parents. My father was a ball. We call it a ball breaker. He was a ball breaker. Everything was a joke.
Mm,
Have fun, enjoy yourself. So I'm a big ball breaker. If you can't hang around, if you're sensitive, you're not going to be
yeah.
around me. Yeah.
No, no, no. We roast the ones we love.
Yeah.
Do you ever you watch shows like Boardwalk Empire? You know, I know that was centered around Atlantic
I
City.
like
Are you a
that.
shows guy?
Yeah, I like that. I liked Boardwalk Empire. That was good. But I'm a Sopranos guy though. I love Sopranos. I love the Sopranos. I went up to their house recently. Maybe a year or so ago. I put a picture on Twitter. I took my friends. They didn't even know where we were going. So I took my friends who love the Sopranos, but had no idea we were going to North Caldwell. So we drive up there, and I'm saying, I got to go here. I got to meet somebody. I get out of my car. My friend's like, who's he meeting in this house? He looked down, looked up, looked down. That's Tony Soprano's house, he said. And so I love doing that kind of stuff. I love doing like tours of that kind of stuff. And I've been on the set with them. I actually was on the on a set. I mean, down at the Golden Nugget here, and I was on with them. We all did a photo shoot together. I've been with Gandolfini a couple times. I have some pictures with him, and yeah, it was fun. I love shows like that, and I love the. You're right, Boardwalk Empire was a really good show. Now Gravesend's a good show in New York. It's got a lot of. They bring in a lot of guest stars every week. It's good, but I love that stuff. That's what, and my downtime. That's what I listen to. By the way, I listen to some of the mafia podcasts. I listen to like Michael Franchise. I listen to his sit down with Jeff Nadeau. I listen to his sit down. I listen to the mafia podcast. I enjoy that. I enjoy listening to that stuff. Not that I look up to those guys or anything. I just find it so amazing where guys like Meyer Lansky was ruling all these unions and all these companies and the different things he did. I love these kind of stories. I live in Las Vegas. Listen, I live in a town that has a big, giant history of mafia. You guys seen Casino. That stuff was real. That stuff that you see is exactly the way it was out here. And it's still, to a certain point, not mafia, but a cowboy town. This is still a cowboy town. Think about it. We don't have DraftKings, FanDuel, and none of these big companies here. Yet their headquarters is a couple miles away where they're taking the bets, where they're approving the bets, but yet they're not here. And that's because you have a lot of people that are very powerful in this town probably blocking them. I mean, how can we not have DraftKings and FanDuel in Las Vegas?
Sure, sure. I didn't think we'd be talking about Sopranos on this episode, but this is why I love having someone like you on. Who was your favorite character in the show? I
I mean,
I think
you got to
you can
put
learn a
Tony.
lot about a person.
Yeah,
Take Tony aside because
yeah,
everybody loves Tony.
take him to the side.
Who's your guy? Who's your number two on that
I
show?
mean, I guess you really got to go with Silvio. He was some underboss there, and that bottom lip was always out, and he's always thinking things through. And you want this guy taken care of. All right, Tony, don't worry, I got it. But then again, maybe you think Paulie too, because he was a cartoon character. I mean, he really was. The lines he comes up with, Uncle Junior, old school. The lines he comes up with, you laugh every episode. You laugh and you cry. Those Sunday nights were spent around my family and friends. We had parties around those Sunday nights. I missed them, terribly. They were great nights.
You need a friend like Silvio in your life. I remember when he talked to Paulie about how he's being perceived, or when he talked to Tony about having a problem with authority. He's not afraid to give you the hard tacks about what he needs to say. My favorite character, and this will tell you a little bit myself, was Phil Leotardo. I loved the tension. I loved his ruthless fuck the Jersey boys and that little glorified crew. I liked his story about compromise and what he had to sacrifice for 20 years and why he's unwilling to compromise with anybody on anything. And he was one of my favorite characters
Very
on the
good.
show.
The only real gangsters in the show, there was probably two of them. I'm going to say maybe him because it was 20 years away. The only other real gangster was Richie Aprile. Richie was a stone cold, black eyed gangster. His eyes are black. They have black. There's no blood. You go, you could literally kill someone, and next thing you know, he's face down full of calamari, and this guy starts eating again. That was a real gangster. You're right about that. Those
I
guys.
gotta tell you, Bill, I listened to the Michael Imperioli and Big Boppy
Steve
Bacala. They
Sharifka.
did a
I'm friends with
yeah, Steve
Steve.
Trip.
Yeah,
Oh,
we follow
yeah,
each other on Twitter. Yeah.
he was out in Vegas. Was it a bouncer for a while?
At Riviera, at
Been,
the Riviera. He ran a club at the Riviera. A really good guy. He really is. Recently talked to him on DM back and forth. He's a good guy, real good guy. But that was a great show they had. It was during
oh
the
yeah.
COVID, during the pandemic.
Oh,
Oh my God!
it got me
Every
through it. It got me through it.
it was so good. It was so good. You're right.
The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. Save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/circles off or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it helps support the show. Now back to the episode. Well, the you mentioned Richie Aprile, and I thought this was a fun note because he had this such serious to his character, and they asked him, how did you tap into it? And he said, I thought about every movie role that I thought I deserved that I got passed over, and I turned the real bitterness into that character who was also bitter that he got left behind and everybody prospered without him. And like it all felt real. Every scene with him stole every scene. It felt real. You could feel his anger and why he hated everybody.
The day he got out of jail, he went and seen Beansy in the pizza place. He said,
Yeah,
"Give it a
right away. He
veal
was
parmesan
stewing.
sandwich." He
Yeah,
said, "Yeah." No,
yeah.
he was a gangster. He was a real gangster in that movie, in that series.
I listened to your pod Wisecracks with John Orlando. I love the stories you tell. He's got stories too. How did that come about? Like, who reached out to who? Did you guys know each other before?
Um, I knew John. Yeah, hello and goodbye. I knew him. I never knew he had podcast studio or anything. And John asked me to do a couple of his episodes on his shows, which I did. And then that company came at me from a guy that was in charge of the World Series of Poker. Oh, it's a shame I don't know his name right now. He's the one that said, "Hey, Bill, this company's looking to sponsor a podcast. They want to get in the betting space." And he put me in touch with them, and they sponsored my podcast for 4.5 years. I first did it with a female named Rosalie Michaels. Some of our first episodes were unbelievable. We had Dick Vitale on. We had so many big. I'll put that podcast up for 4 years against any. We had so many ex-football. Marcus Allen was on half a dozen times. I had Warren Moon on. We had all the poker players: Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu, Mike Madison, all the casino executives. I've had Derek Stevens was on 3 or 4 times. I had Jay down at the. I had Richie. I had Richie on. I had Jimmy Vaccaro on. But I had from the celebrity world. I had actors on. I had all different athletes on. It was so cool to do a podcast every week. I was so blessed. One day I went in. My last guest was Alan Boston, so I went in and Alan was on, and they told me, "This is the last show, Bill." I said, "All right." It was a great run. I expected it sooner or later. To be real blunt, well, they did. They were paying me. They were overpaying me. I would have done it for half the money um, for a 1 day show. So they were real good to me, and I probably rested on my laurels the last 4 or 5 months. Didn't shop the podcast because John called me up and he said, "Hey, let's see if we can get this podcast going." And it's just so hard during preseason football and before that, and there was so much work to be done. And I'm glad I didn't do it then because I really did really good in preseason football. So, but however, it's just funny you're saying this. Just this week on Monday, I had someone reach out to me, and I think we're going to start it back up with a new sponsor once a week. So it should be fun.
Oh, that's great. I remember. I think March was the last episode that came out. I haven't heard anything new. One of your guests was Oz Perlman, the mentalist, and I love that. I'm a guy, like, if I'm at a front row at a magic show and they want me involved, I'm in, and I play. I'm that guy in the audience who's amazed, and I love the whole showmanship and the magic of it. This maniac guessed your ATM
He
pin code
did.
on
I
air.
did.
I want to know how fast did you go out and change
I
right
changed
after
it. I changed it
recording?
the same day. You know, it was amazing. I love that guy too. He's such a cool guy. I owe him a text actually. We text back and forth recently. He was actually on First Take. I didn't even know. I turned not First Take. He was on with the Jets, the thing on
Hard
HBO,
knocks, hard
Hard
knocks.
Knocks.
He's
He
on a
was
run
there.
right now.
I was like, hey, there
Yeah.
he was. Yeah, he was messing with all those guys. It was really cool. He did some cool things with Aaron Rodgers. So, but yeah, he came on, and you know, I didn't use like a birthday or I mean, I used a number that I didn't think. First of all, I'm not an ATM guy. I don't go to ATMs. You know, carry cash. It ain't heavy. You know, I don't go to ATMs to take out 20s and 50s and use that for the day or 20. I don't do that. Matter of fact, my card wasn't even signed. So that's just to show you. I never even used the thing. The guy came on. He guessed my PIN number of my ATM, which I've never used. He guessed. Gil Alexander wrote down an old celebrity or an old basketball player, and he guessed the basketball player. He really is. Now listen, we all know it's a trick, right? It's something. There's little things that they plant, little things they say to get things out of you, get tells. But I like magicians. I like that kind of stuff. I'll go to a magician. I'll go there like you. I enjoy that. I love to laugh. I love to smile, have fun, enjoy myself. It's great stuff.
Um, I always ask, what would you be doing for a living if you weren't doing what you are now? Like, what skill set do you think you have, or what would you be intrigued to try to do if your life turned out differently?
I was always a leader. I was never a follower. You know, back when I was, literally I was president of student council and stuff. I was always a leader. I never went out and drank. That's probably why I don't drink or do anything because I never did it when I was a kid. I was that guy that said, "You want to do it? Yeah, enjoy yourself. Be a jerk off." You know, like drinking and driving and stuff. It wasn't a big deal like it is now, drinking and driving. But I never did it. It just wasn't. It's not what I did. Now, occasionally I have a drink with my friends on the beach or something at night. They get it. Used to be these things called the kegs. I don't know if they even have them anymore. It's a keg of beer, and they used to tap the kegs, and they used to put $5 each in. I once in a while I would do that or something, but I was a leader, so I'd be some kind of a leader or something like at a business or my own business or something like that. I'd like to think I'm not really one to. I don't really like just making sure I get a guaranteed paycheck and take orders. Yet I did up into my my early 20s. But I like the idea of working for myself now, and like I said, I can laugh every day. I make fun of myself. It's always good to make fun of yourself. So I don't know what I'd be doing, but I'm sure it would be in some kind of a leadership role.
Yeah, I wrote down something, and now I realize because you said you don't drink. I said, of all the people that I've seen or met or listened to in this space, I said Bill's one of the guys at the top of the list I'd like to have a beer with.
Oh
Now we're gonna have to change that to like a steak
no,
dinner.
I'd have a beer though. You go have a beer. I'd have one beer with you. Sure, sure.
You got
That's
a zest for life. You love music, you love concerts.
love music. Love
I've
music.
never lived in Vegas, but it's something that I've battled, like the thought of it for the last couple years. I still have the romantic version of Vegas in my head. Like, sure, obviously it's advantageous from a sports betting perspective, but I would like take advantage of the shows. I'd go to concerts, Penn and Teller, the electricity, the cast of characters, people coming in and out. Like the scene, I feel would be so frequently changing that it would never get boring. Is Vegas like that for you?
I enjoy going to shows. I'm a classic rock fan. I also like the Cirque du Soleil shows. I've seen Love 22 times. I think I've seen Love. I just it always changes, and I love the music. I love the Beatles now. I became a Beatles fan going to that show. By the way, I like classic rock, but Beatles were just okay. Now I love the Beatles. So I like going to all those type of shows. I've seen Barry Manilow here a couple times. Lionel Richie I've seen here. He's going to be here again. I love going to shows and I love getting good seats. I've seen the Rolling Stones here many times. I set my alarm this morning to get up early, like 6 in the morning. That they released a new song today and stuff, so it was cool. Like first album in 18 years. I'm still a Stones fan, but I don't have much time for that during handicapping season and stuff. That's all over now. That's all over now. I will watch things. You'll be shocked that I'm a fan of American Idol or no, America's Got Talent. That's the one I like better. I'll watch that. I'll tape it and watch it. But besides that, I don't watch anything. I can't watch anything fictional. I can't even go to movies anymore. I can't. It's just tough for me to go to anything. I have to watch stuff that's real, that means something, that's gonna maybe change my life or make me. I like giving back to the community and donating things to. I'm involved in a couple charities. I like doing that all through year. One of my best friends is Teddy Atlas, which you probably know. I go to his charity dinner every year. Try to give back all the time. You got to remember where you come from.
Yeah, no, I love that. During football season, there's no wedding or baptism that I'm going to. You can't get me away. You'll get an envelope. I apologize. It's nothing personal. Um, Outside of like you like concerts, you watch The Sopranos, so do I. Outside of like sports gambling, what are your passions in life?
I'll shock you. I never tell anyone that's on the show. There was a site I went to. Is it on my site still? Yes, it is. Wow, there it is. It's still on my. I looked it up months ago. I left it on the link open. It's called 48 State Tour. This was about. I love restoring old graves, old cemetery graves. There's some great ones up in like Boston and New Jersey, and like old cemeteries that the stones fell over, and maybe you can't power washing them or giving someone. Now, I'm not physically doing that stuff, but I'm definitely donating to it, and I enjoy keeping track of what the old graveyards are and cleaning the stones and just having a respect for what our country was. I'm a true blue American. I believe in the military. I believe in saluting the flag, and that's what I do. I'm a true blue American. This country is the greatest country. You go to some other places around the different countries and different areas, and you come back and you still kiss this ground here. So, like I said, that's something I do. I enjoy going to famous graves too. I've been to Westwood Cemetery many times in L.A. and some different cemeteries, and not really an L.A. fan, but I like going to the cemeteries there. I like going to. I'm a big Rodney Dangerfield fan, so I like going to his graves. Rodney's grave says Rodney Dangerfield. There goes the neighborhood. That's it. That's what it says. Great place over there. Marilyn Monroe's there. Jack Lemmon's there. I can go on and on and on. This it's one of the greatest cemetery. D. Martin, one of my guys. I love him. I enjoy going to that. It's very peaceful to me going to cemeteries. Even my parents, I got them a nice mausoleum. Like going there, especially in the warmer weather. The birds singing, the water, the brook, the falls. It's very peaceful to me. I enjoy going to cemeteries. Weird, I know.
No, no, it's not because I finally understood once you started talking about it. It's the preservation of history. It's remembering the journey. I oftentimes my cousin and I will share a cigar. Well, we have our own cigars, and we'll have a drink, and we'll just look out at the skyline, and we just look at 100 years ago. This city didn't look like it did, and human ingenuity took it to places that you would never believe, and how far we've come along in the history of any given city or country. So I also appreciate that. I want to ask you one question. You actually tipped it off. I always said if I could go back to one era of life, uh, send me back to the Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra days, so I can watch them
The
sing to the
'60s Rat
crowd.
Pack. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's my era. I feel like that was the era I was supposed to
If
be
I
born
had
in.
one of those magic balls there, G-Stack, I would rub it and say, I wish I was dead already, but I wish I was alive back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
interesting, right?
That was my era. I feel it in my heart. Bill, you've been such a pleasure. I thank you
Anytime,
for taking the time.
anytime.
Honestly, I had a blast. I hope when I get down to Vegas, we'll get to meet you and we'll
You
get to
come
have
down
that
here.
chat.
Let me know when you're coming. I'll hook you up for a free room and I'll take you to dinner. You let me know.
That's it for me. Another edition of 90 Degrees is in the books. I want to thank my guest, Bill Krackomberger, professional sports bettor, advantage gambler, media personality, the sponsors of this podcast, Pinnacle and BetStamp, and my producer, Jason Cooper. Thanks for listening. Do me a favor. Before you go, like the content, subscribe, share, and comment. And we'll be back next week with another guest on the 90 Degrees podcast where we give an inside look into the sports betting industry. That's it for me. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.